Hi church, so good to see you online. My name is Alvin. I'm one of the pastors here at Emmanuel. Whether you're watching online, on-site, or with a group of friends, whether you're a member or a guest, we believe that God has a word for you. Just a reminder that our online services will continue to premiere at 10 a.m. every Sunday, and if you're interested to come back for our on-site service, it starts at 11 a.m. sharp. You can book the tickets through the link below, or you can check with your cell leaders for more details. We are a church that has many generations, young, old, middle-aged, etc. But as a church, we believe that generations, when we come together, we will see and experience the goodness of God as one. Our new sermon series, Young Ones, will talk about how we can synergize our generations together for the glory of Jesus. And opening up our series today will be our senior pastor, Pastor Mark Poh. But before we go into the word, we're going to go into church news for some announcements and a time of worship. Let's roll the church news.
Hi church, welcome home. Here in Emmanuel, we believe that church is more than just a Sunday service. We are a family and you have a place here. My name is Delia and here are some of the events happening in Emmanuel.
A person who can see dreams as a destiny is not fixated on just achieving one goal after another. The person is fluid, the person is flexible, and even when one dream dies, the person knows this is not just a destination, but it is a destiny. It's an outworking, ongoing destiny. If one dream dies, it is not a hopeless end, because you have a relationship with God. It will never be a hopeless end. It will always be endless hope when you have Jesus Christ in your life.
2020 has been an unexpected year for many. So what's God's plan for us and how can we respond to the season? Join Women of Purpose for their next online Zoom session with Pastor Leah from Heart of God Church as she shares her live message on generations, how different generations of leaders and believers can journey together and emerge victorious. For more information or to sign up for the event, you can do so by following the link shown on the screen or by scanning the QR code.
One of the toughest questions that we ask ourselves during hard times is, why is God not helping me in my desperation? Does He not care? Join our very own Golden Emmanuel Ministry as we explore more on this topic on the 17th of October, 2:30 p.m. during their monthly service online. Sister Jenny Sell will be sharing the word with us. It will be a service you don't want to miss. Generation of Promise, our youth ministry dedicated to supporting and reaching out to secondary school youths, invites all 11 to 12-year-olds to join their Metamorphosis activities this year. There will be a hangout on the 21st of October, Wednesday, and Games Day on the 24th of October, Saturday. Both are aimed to help youths with transitioning into secondary school by bridging them into a godly community. If you know any 11 to 12-year-olds, invite them to these exciting activities today. For more information and to register, you can head on to the link shown on screen or scan the QR code. With so much happening in Emmanuel, you can keep up with us by visiting our website at www.emmanuel.org.sg or follow us on our social media account for event updates and more. That's all we have for you today. Now let's prepare our hearts for a time of worship.
Good morning, church. So glad to have you with us this morning. Wherever you are, why not you lift up your hands as we worship the King of Kings today. Your love is devoted, like a ring of solid gold, like a vow that is tested, like a covenant of old. Your love is enduring through the winter rain and beyond the horizon, with mercies for today. Faithful you have been, and faithful you will be. You pledge yourself to me, and that's why I sing that your praise will ever be on my lips, ever be on my lips. Your praise will ever be on my lips, ever be on my lips. Your praise will ever be on my lips, ever be on my lips. Your praise will ever be on my lips, ever be on my lips. You father the orphan, your kindness makes us whole. You shoulder our weakness as your strength becomes our own. You're making me like you. You're close clothing me in white, bringing beauty from ashes. For you will have your bride, free of all her guilt, and rid of all her shame, and known by her true name. And that's why I sing that your praise will ever be on my lips, ever be on my lips. Your praise will ever be on my lips, ever be on my lips. Your praise will ever be on my lips, ever be on my lips. Your praise will ever be on my lips, ever be on my lips. And you will be praised, and you will be praised with angels and saints who is sing worthy are you, Lord. You will be praised, and you will be praised with angels and saints who is sing worthy are you, Lord. You will be praised, and you will be praised with angels and saints who is sing worthy are you, Lord. And you will be praised, and you will be praised with angels and saints who is sing worthy are you, Lord. Praises, praises to you, Lord. So worthy, so holy, so lovely are you, Lord. There is none, there is none, there is none that compares to you, Lord. So worthy, so lovely, so holy are you, Lord. King Jesus, King Jesus. We pour out our worship, we pour out our worship. Jesus, Jesus. You know, church, wherever we are, why not we just open our hearts to Him and just let the wind of the Holy Spirit blow over us and have His way in our lives. Come and have your way, Lord. Come and have your way. You give life, you are love, you bring light to the darkness, you give hope, you restore every heart that is broken. Great are you, Lord, and it's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise, we pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you only. give life, we sing. You give life. You are love. You bring light to the darkness. You give hope. You restore every heart that is broken. Great are you, Lord. It's your breath we sing, and it's your breath in our lungs. So we pour out our praise. We pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs. So we pour out our praise to you only. It's your breath in our lungs. So we pour out our praise. We pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs. So we pour out our praise to you only. All the earth we sing it. All the earth will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry. These bones will sing. Great are you, Lord. All the earth will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry. These bones will sing. Great are you, Lord. All the earth we sing. All the earth will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry. These bones will sing. Great are you, Lord. It's your breath we sing, and it's your breath in our lungs. So we pour out our praise. We pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs. So we pour out our praise to you only. So great you are, Lord. So great you are, Lord.
Hi church, it's great to be back. We had an exciting week. We brought back our corporate prayer. So on Wednesday, more than 100 of us, just over 100 of us came together, and we had a fruitful time of praying together, of being inspired together, and continuing to look to God to bring about something significant for our church. Well, today we're going to start off a new series called Young Ones. And we'll be covering two aspects of it. One is to talk about the young ones, and then the next week we'll be talking more about on the elderly. One of the things that many speakers, almost all of them, when they come to our church to preach, one of the things they notice very significant about our church is that we are a youthful church. They love the passion of the young people. They love the response. And I think that's a good thing. But I want to tell you, Emmanuel is just not a youth church. We have a very important segment of the church where the older ones play a very important part. They are the ones that have provided not only the stability, but the faithfulness of who they are, have allowed our church to be who we are today. Sister Gek-Eng, to help us to try to put together, we told her we wanted to do something on the youth and the elderly. She put together this, and this is what she said in her write-up. She said, whether you're young or old today, you are or were young once. The older generation today were not always old, and the younger generation today will not be forever young. Understanding this really will help us appreciate and respect one another from across the generations. You know, one of the very significant events that happened for our church happened in the year 2001. That was the year that I went into SGH for 5 weeks. And during the initial part of it, when I was in ICU, the Lord laid an impression on my heart. And the impression was this: He will take the young people of the church, and they will be the arrowhead of revival for our church. And it sounded really strange because we were only a small youth group. But in that ICU room was the birth of a revival story for Emmanuel. And today, when we look at the church, we see the amount of young people that we have in church. We know that we serve a faithful and a good God who's brought to pass what He said He will do. You know, but to the young people, I want to say this to you. When God called you to be the arrowhead of revival, you are never alone. Because every arrow will have an entire component. It has the arrowhead. It has a shaft representing a movement together. But behind every arrow, you will notice what we often call the feathers, or officially is called the fletching. They are lightweight feathers which provide stability, which helps to guide the arrow to its target. So the arrowhead of revival cannot exist alone. We need to work together as an entire family. So Emmanuel is not a youth church. It's not a church with old people, but we are a family church, tapping onto the passion and the energy of the young, coupled with the wisdom and the faithfulness of the older ones. And together, we fulfill what God has called us to do. So today I'll be talking about the youth. Next week, Pastor Kelvin will be coming to talk about the aspirations of the aged. What do I want to cover? What do I want to talk to the youths about? Well, two things. Number one, the strength of the youths. And the second area, the things that the young people need to watch out for. This is something that I feel is important for the young ones to listen to. Let's look at the first area, the strength of the young ones. I think this is a very famous proverb, and that's in Proverbs 20 verse 29. It says this: the glory of young men is their strength, and the honor of the old men is their gray hair. You know, this is not difficult to understand, because truly, when we begin to talk about the young people, they have strength, they have energy, they have passion. And I think that is so wonderful and good. And if you're older today, let me tell you, you were once upon a time young. You were energetic, you had dreams, you were excited about every new day, you had things to look out for, you were adventurous, things like that. And I think that is so interesting. So when Proverbs says the glory of the young man is the strength, the writer of Proverbs knows exactly what he's talking about. You know, we think of the stories from the Bible. The great exploits in the Bible very often starts off with God picking up young people to commission them to do great things for Him. We think of the Davids, we think of the Daniels, we think of the Josephs, we think of the Gideons. These were all young people. But let me tell you this, the Bible is not only about young people. There are the Calebs, there are the Pauls, there are the apostles who went on to accomplish great things for God. But really, when we begin to look at what God is doing, God typically reaches out to this amazing generation and uses them for His glory. And so today, we're going to talk about the young people. You know, it is again, when we look at the young people today, it's again very different from when I was young once. You know, nowadays we look at the young people, we are amazed. I'm personally amazed at what I see. I get inspired by them, the way they go about preaching. They are great, they are very good preachers, you know, better than some of the older ones. You know, I'm amazed at how fast they work. You know, the kind of things they pick up, the technology they pick up, how fast they do a pay now. And honestly, when I need to send out a quick message, guess who I turn to? I will turn to Faith and says, Faith, please help me to send out this message. Because all she needs to do is and out it goes. And I'll be like, still figuring out which button to press. And the way I see them play their mobile games, it's amazing how fast they are. You know, Faith likes to bring the friends over, and they play this game called Overcooked. And so often they'll ask, hey, Pastor Ma, want to join us? And I'm like, says, no way, you know, I will really overcook the food. You know, because they are so fast. And I'm like, looking at what they are playing, I'm trying to capture and understand what's happening. They are already on it. So this is a generation that is so fast in all the things they do. They pick up things so fast. But I want to say this. In our church, I'm glad to tell you that there are young people that are rising up now to help the older ones adapt to technology and so on. And I think that's a great thing, because we are tapping onto the strength, the passion, the know-hows of the young to help the older ones. You know, I'm also inspired by the energy and the passion that the young in our church have, the way they worship God, the way they serve God. So often I've seen youth leaders having meetings, and they go on for a long time. They are really sitting down to plan activities for the young people, how they can reach out to their friends and so on. So amazing thing that I see, and I'm inspired. Okay, and I'm happy and excited that the young people have all these gifts. Their creativity, the way they can think out of the box, the way they can look at the situation and begin to think of ways to tackle this. I'm happy and excited for them, because how good they are will only benefit our church. And there are many things that the young people need to watch out for. And this is where I'm going on to the next section, because I know that, you know, the gift, the power, the ability, the creativity, the knowledge of the young generation, the devil will come to try to destroy this. Whereas God wants to use this generation, the devil is out to get them. So as a young person, this next section is for you to take note of. What are the areas that you all need to watch out for? Number one is to continue to be walking worthy of your call. You know, Paul writes to young Timothy, and he writes this in 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 3 to 7. Let me read this to you. It says, "You therefore must endure hardship as a good soldier of Jesus Christ. No one engaged in warfare entangles himself with the affairs of this life, that he may please him who enlisted him as a soldier. And also, if anyone competes in athletics, he is not crowned unless he competes according to the rules. The hard-working farmer must be first to partake of the crops. Consider what I say, and may the Lord give you understanding in all things." Paul writes to a young Timothy. Now, Timothy wasn't a teenager. He was probably in his 20s or 30s. And yet, he was looking after a church, and Paul writes to him to give him this exaltation for him to be walking worthy of the calling that he has been called to. What did Paul say? Paul told him to walk faithfully, to endure hardship as a soldier of Jesus Christ. And we think of the word soldier. Why did Paul write using the story of a soldier? Because a soldier needs to press on in battles. He needs to be ready to confront challenges, insurmountable challenges, difficulties, and the soldier needs to continue to press on. So as a young person, this is what you need to do. And then Paul goes on and says he cannot entangle himself with the affairs of this life. What does entanglement mean? It means to be caught up. And I like to always bring back to the story of the 4 types of soil. And many of you will know that the third type of soil was a good soil, but you remember too that in that soil, weeds were growing up. And Jesus said this parable, that this particular seed, this particular plant that was growing up was crowded over and almost overcome by the weeds, which represents the distraction of the world. And are there distractions in the world? For sure there are. You know, the call of the world, the things that will distract young people. Gaming is fun, but too much of it will kill. Too much of it will destroy whatever that God has called you to do. So we need to be very mindful that we are not distracted away from what God has called us to do. And then we remember as Paul writes to Timothy, he's using the story of a soldier, and he uses this word as a good soldier. What is a good soldier? a good soldier must keep on to the mission and the objective for which he's been called to do. And so let's not be distracted. There are really lots of temptation, lots of good things out there, even good careers. But if God has called us to serve Him faithfully, let's do it. Okay, the other area that Paul writes to Timothy was using the example of an athlete. And he says that athlete must compete according to the rules. And we know that athletes, one of the very important things about athletes is discipline. And all of us will know who Joseph Schooling is, our Olympic champion. You know, but I don't know how many of you remember that maybe it was last year that he started to lose races. And we realized that he wasn't as fit as he was before. Did he lose out on the discipline? I think it was months later that he said that he had to get back to the routine of training again, get back to the discipline. So in the same way, young people, the gift that God has given you, the talent, the creativity, the speed, the energy, keep on. Do not allow yourself to be distracted. Do not allow yourself to just, because of the lack of discipline, miss out on what God is calling you to do. And then Paul uses this example of the farmer. He says a farmer needs to be patient. And true, a farmer not only needs to be hardworking, he also needs to be patient. Because as the farmer sows the seed, waters the seedlings and causes the plants to grow, he has to wait until the harvest time comes. And for young people, sometimes patience is one of the hardest things to do. Because it's so exciting. We live in an exciting time. We live in a very fast-paced society. You want everything to be instantaneous. But very often, God says we all need to exercise patience. So when Paul writes to Timothy, Paul knows exactly what is it that may confront a young person. That because we may be impulsive, because we may be wanting things to be done fast, Paul says, be patient. Like the farmer who's hardworking, be patient because the fruit will come in. What else? What are the areas we watch out for? The second area that I put is to be walking humbly. I think in 1 Peter 5:5, this verse is so important. You know, the 1 Peter 5, the earlier verses talk about to the leaders, to the shepherds, to the elders. But then in verse 5, Peter directs the message to the young people. And verse 5 says this, you younger men, likewise be subject to your elders. And all of you, clothe yourself with humility toward one another. For God is opposed to the proud, but gives grace to the humble. You know, when you're doing great, when you're accomplishing great things, when everybody is cheering, applauding you and cheering you on, one of the biggest danger is that pride comes in. And you think you can win the world, you think you can do everything, you will do better than anybody else. And as soon as pride comes in, then the fall comes in. The verse says, God is opposed to the proud, but gives grace to the humble. I think there are many verses in the Bible that talks about humility. Humility being so important. And then especially when we talk about the young people today. You all are so talented. Remain humble. Remain humble. You know, King Nebuchadnezzar was one such person, and he taught us a wonderful lesson about being humble. Because one day he was walking, he was looking at all his exploits, and he says, it is me. And God had to check him. And he had to eat grass, become like a cow to eat grass, you know. And that's terrible. But God is opposed to the proud. So 1 Peter 5 also talks about this, about being subjected. And being subjected means to be accountable. And honestly, nobody likes to be accountable, because accountable means I need to report to somebody. I need to tell people what's happening in my life. But Peter writes this with such wisdom, because he knows that the good, the whatever calling that God has for every young person, your talent can so easily be lost because of pride. because of the lack of accountability. So go on to learn. You know, I learned this very early in my life. When I read this quotation, it says, if you want to be a good leader, be a good follower. You learn to subject yourself to somebody. And I thank God. I thank God for Pastor Ang. I thank God in the many years of just really serving under Pastor Ang, to see his style of working. We are two separate individuals, but to be accountable to him, to learn to submit to him. Because if Pastor Ang says, no, Mark, that's a bad idea, I've got to really learn to trust him, because he's got the wisdom of years to know that we should not do it. So accountability helps me to be a better leader at the same time. Well, the third thing is this remembering where we started. Ecclesiastes chapter 12 verse 1 says this, remember now your Creator in the days of your youth, before the difficult days come and the years draw near when you say, I have no pleasure in them. King Solomon was a very wise king. Of course, he faltered in the later years. But when he wrote Ecclesiastes, he was writing from having hindsight. And he knows when he was writing about, don't forget the Creator of your youth. Because as a youth, we've got so many promises, we've got visions, we've got exciting things ahead of us. And Solomon says, do not forget the Creator of your youth. The God who has brought about all the things that you have in your hands. But I like to just bring on a different perspective. That this is not just only asking young people to remember who God is. That God has given them promises, given them blessings. But we also bring it closer to home. Do not forget where we came from, who have invested in your life, who have walked with us during the early days. You know, I was one of the leaders was talking to me, and he was counseling one of the young people and says, do not forget what the people who have walked with you have done for you in the early years. Who you are today is because of what these people have invested in you. And in the same way, I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the leaders I have. I'm grateful for Pastor Ang. I'm grateful for Pastor Jim Williams in the early years. I'm grateful for my cell leader in New Zealand, Justin Quack. These people have invested, and I remember what they have done for me. Who I am today is because of all these people who have invested. And to remain grateful is a trait that I believe every young person, as you continue to grow in life, as you continue to be successful, remember. Remember who your cell leaders are. Today you may be a cell member. Your cell leaders have invested into you. Well, one day you will become a great cell leader. Remember who have invested in you. Well, I'm going to conclude, and I want to leave some words of advice, maybe from somebody older, to the older generation. I want to say this to you. We so often we look at the young people, we are excited, and you know, for me, my heart breaks when I hear old people say, oh, I can't wait for the young people to come. When they come up, then we all can retire. Can I say there's no retirement in God's kingdom? There is a refirement, okay, but no retirement. All right, so when the young people are up, let's not take the young people for granted. I think I'm excited to see the strength, the energy of the young ones. But as the older ones, let's cheer them on, but let's also continue to walk with them. You know, Isaiah 40, chapter 40, verse 30. You know, we read this so often. And in there's this verse that I want to highlight to you today. It says this, even the youths shall faint and be weary, and the young men shall utterly fall. When I read this, I think that, hey, our young people are still humans. We think they got lots of energy. Let's continue to use them. No, I don't think so. But I think we can encourage them. We can walk hand in hand with them. And I think some of the older people in church, I'm proud of you. To always think of you all going for mission trip, to do the things that some of you are doing. Well done. But press on. Press on. But to the younger people, I want to leave this with you. In Psalms 119, verse 9 to 11, it says this, how can a young man cleanse his way? by taking heed according to your word. With my whole heart I have sought you. Oh, let me not wander from your commandments. Your word I have hidden in my heart, that I might not sin against you. The psalmist was very clever to know that what is going to guide, what is going to protect the young people will be the very word of God, to be staying close to God. So we live in exciting times. I'm proud to be the pastor of this church, to be able to see the young people rising up so powerfully, doing the things that they're doing. I'm proud to be the pastor of even the older congregation members. I think you're doing great. But let's together remember that we're one family, tapping on the strength, the passion of the young, as well as tapping on the wisdom and the faithfulness of the old. And together, as one, let's go on to win the world for Jesus. God bless you.
What a great word from our senior pastor, Pastor Mark. We believe that God has spoken to you, so do remember to share at your carousels your thoughts and the applications with regards to this sermon. Giving is our act of worship to God as well. So as you look to the screens, you will see the QR codes for our tithes and offering, our missions, as well as our building fund. Alternatively, if you would like to drop off your check or cash, you can drop them off at a church office at Upper East Coast campus during office hours. If you would like to respond to today's message, or if you need any prayer, you can scan the QR code or enter the link, and our pastoral team members will be praying with and for you. To keep in touch with our latest news, you can visit our website www.emmanuel.org.sg or follow us on social media on Instagram as well as Facebook. So remember, online service happens at 10 a.m. every Sunday, and our on-site service happens at 11 a.m. at the Upper East Coast campus. That's all for today's service. Have a great day.